Hi, everyone. This is Julianne, and welcome to the podcast and YouTube channel Brave Enough, Renew, Recreate, Recover You. Really happy today to introduce a very special guest, Angela Godoy. Angela is the founder of Serenity and Salud, a yoga teacher, spiritual coach, and travel dream maker, which I need to talk to her about for sure. Serenity and Salud shows women how to reclaim their wellness, create their own calm, and live their life in alignment with love. As a multiple myeloma survivor, Angela knows firsthand the importance of caring for your mind, body, and soul. She supports women in resetting their nervous system and transitioning from the aftermath of the cancer diagnosis using yoga, breath work, and spirituality. As a travel dream maker, Angela guides others in making their travel dreams come true without breaking the bank. She also finds joy as a volunteer myeloma coach, helping newly diagnosed patients navigate their treatment options. You can find her on Instagram at Serenity and Salud. She also has a link tree that I'll link down below in the bio. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Angela and say, is there anything else about you we should know before we
Oh,
start?
I'm a mom, and my youngest just graduated in this year. So I've got three adult children and two stepchildren. So
You have a full house.
yeah, we have a full we have a full house. A lot of them are off doing their thing, but it's still something happens. It's always major because they're older now. So
But it doesn't end, right? I mean, at least I have found that.
yeah, yeah. I think if anything, it's gotten harder.
Yeah, it's just different, isn't it? The problem's
Yeah,
bigger, I guess, right?
yeah. Their problems become like adult problems.
Yes, exactly. So they're
Yeah,
not just yours.
yeah. It's kind of
No,
like, oh, my car went out. Mom, I need $500 to fix my car. Those kind
that's
of problems.
exactly. That's exactly. I love it. Well, that's awesome to have 5 healthy children.
Yeah.
So, I have really been looking forward to talking to you because we had such a wonderful conversation and I just admire so much. You have been through just such a difficult health journey. And so, for everyone, we said it in the beginning here, but Angela was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and she can tell everybody about what that means and what that diagnosis entails because it's something that this is a cancer diagnosis. It's very complex. And, she has survived almost an impossible journey here and has had so many changes. So why don't you start a little bit by talking to us about how that all came about, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that are, now coming into your life as you've recovered.
Yeah. I was diagnosed in 2017. I was 38 years old and I had been having some pain in my leg. And it almost felt like I did not realize to describe that it was actually bone pain. And my husband and I went hiking one day and I could hike up the mountain, but it was the steps down that where I would put a lot of pressure on the leg that was just excruciating. And I went to the doctor and they recommended physical therapy. They didn't do any x-rays or anything. And then one day I actually woke up and I could not stand on my leg. I was screaming. And that was when it was like, okay, there's something really wrong here. And I went to the doctor and I got x-rays, MRI. The x-rays actually, it showed the hole in the bone where the myeloma had just decided to have, take place. And so it was an incredible fast tracked, just my life changed from one day to the next. One day I was just super healthy, going to my son's football games every weekend, working overtime, just doing all these things that young person does. And then boom, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't walk. Oh, and I'm diagnosed with cancer. And it was like, what? is going on? So, multiple myeloma is an incurable cancer of the blood, and it affects the bones, the kidneys. You could have anemia. There's an acronym for it called CRAB: calcium, renal, anemia, or bone disease. So it can affect you in one of those ways. It can affect you in all of those ways. It affects me in the bones. So I had a surgery to replace my right tibia with a titanium rod. And then when I relapsed at the beginning of 2022, I had another surgery. So I have another rod in my left humerus. So I'm getting rods all over the place. I was really upset that this one has actually been harder than the leg. The recovery has been harder. And I was upset because I thought, since we already knew what I had, I was on treatment, I was being monitored. I didn't understand how I would need to have another surgery. So there's been a lot of emotional waves I've been writing, trying to deal with this second reoccurrence.
Yeah, I would imagine that is true, especially when we have a different expectation. And so, a lot of people listen to my podcast and watch the YouTube channel. We talk a lot about grief, but also a lot about overcoming difficulty. But in this case, we talked about it, you and I, of really grieving the loss of your body and the loss of the health that you experienced at such a young age. And then it did come crashing down on you. And then you are now grieving it again by having, a setback with having that second surgery. So do you want to talk a little bit about what that experience has been like?
Yeah, it's been incredibly emotional. The first time I was diagnosed, I think I felt so much support and outpour from everyone, maybe because I couldn't walk. And then now at relapse, I feel a little, not less cared for, but people say, I maybe in people's mind it's like I can walk, so I can kind of do for myself, so it's different. So I kind of was grieving this care and this attention. Like I caught myself, I recognized it. I was like, whoa, I'm kind of like grieving an attention here. I'm grieving help and attention that I got last time that I'm maybe not getting as much of this time. So this time I've had to really focus on not only going to my doctor's appointments and getting well, but healing myself mentally from this reoccurrence. It's been difficult in my marriage,
Mhm.
in my relationship because I'm not okay,
Right.
you know?
Well, and I think that would be a very normal feeling. And the fact that you're willing to be transparent and just so open and say, I actually am grieving the fact that I don't have that blanket around me. But I think it would be hard. I mean, what you're really longing for is support, for love and support,
Yeah.
and so because it's such a difficult situation, one thing that I talk about is what are the keys that I use to get over, I'm not get over, get through and get into a better place after losing my husband, was surrounding myself with people that I loved and people who loved me. And so I think it's completely natural that you would feel just a little bit sad, feel a little left out, a little isolated, because you don't have that social support that you had the first time, but you still have the same issues. You're still experiencing surgery. You're still living through cancer. You're still trying to recover.
Yeah. And it is. It's been, this time it's been, last time it was an emotional journey as well, but it was an emotional after the fact. Cause then it was like looking back, oh my goodness, I actually went through that and I'm still here. Like, who carried me through that? Because I don't remember parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
you know? And this time it's more, there was a little bit more anger this time with the relapse.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that was when I started to realize, like you said as well, it's a grief. I'm grieving my body. I'm grieving the past. I'm grieving the future of my body because I don't know what that future looks like.
And so, part of grief is anger.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's, just one of those experiences, those emotions? I mean, there are mixed reports on people saying, yes, we do the stages of grief or we don't. In the end, we all know that there are a group of emotions that we generally experience, and anger is one of them. Do you think that you just sort of went back, I should say, to that anger phase, and you're kind of reflushing out all of those emotions in a new way?
I'm so glad you brought that up because that is something that I wrote about, because that's exactly what I think is. I don't think that those stages of grief happen chronologically.
Mm-mm.
I think that they are all specific stages, but you're going like a wave. You're riding the waves, and sometimes you're in anger, and sometimes you're in sadness, and sometimes you're in acceptance. And then all it takes is one little trigger of, oh my goodness, I didn't wake up feeling well today. Oh God, I gotta call my doctor. Something's wrong. And then you're just in that spiral all over again. And it just like for no reason, not for no reason. I mean, you're going through something, but it's just, I I believe that they are meant to be experienced at different points. They don't
Right.
have.
And I think what you're saying is like, sometimes you're just like, what triggered this? There's nothing different today than there was yesterday, but for some reason I wake up today and I'm just not coping well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that's, I think grief. I'm sure it's been similar for you.
Mhm.
It's like you think you're at a good place, and you just never forget sometimes.
No, I don't think you do. So thinking about that, what are some of the things that you have done to get through this grief of, the loss of your health, the surgeries, the setbacks? No, I mean, you're so young. I know, you and I talked about, you feel like you have such an uncertain future. What are some of the things that you rely on, or what do you do every day to cope and to make your life as good as possible each and every day?
Every day, even if it's a 15-minute practice, if that's all I have in my body, every day there's some form of yoga. Right now it's Kundalini. Kundalini yoga is a little different than Hatha yoga. It's a little bit more based on our energy field, our brain, our right and our left hemisphere, balancing the nervous system with the breath work. So even if it's a 15-minute practice, I do incorporate that every day because it helps me get in touch with really, really what is going on with my body, and gives me an opportunity to listen to how I feel. Because I think that we sometimes have a tendency to just get up and go, and we don't check in with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, yoga is that check in with myself, calming my breath, calming my mind so that I can be at least in a good state of mind for whatever comes my way that day. And there's a Buddhist practice, it's called rain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's one thing that is important to me. I use it more in a journaling form. It's recognize, accept, inquire, and non-attachment. So you just recognize the emotion or the feeling or the sensation in your body, and you acknowledge it or accept it. And then you inquire about it. Where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Is this just, why do I feel this way? Where is it coming from? And then to just release the attachment of what you think about it, and just release that attachment and let it go. So that's the other practice that I use a lot when I do journal. I can't, I would lie if I said that I journaled every day and did yoga every day and did my affirmation. That's a lot of stuff to do every day. So,
Yes.
but when I'm in that space and I have the time, I do use the rain practice for my journaling.
I think that's a beautiful way of expressing yourself.
Yeah,
And,
it
and
helps.
structuring it.
Yeah, because you can let your thoughts run wild and before you know it, you're just lost.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And off track. You can get
Yes.
very off track if you don't, which can actually up the emotional ante of where you're sitting before you even start, if you just don't control your thoughts.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then that anxiety is just really taxing on the body,
It is.
and so the fact that I already know that I'm dealing with a chronic cancer, the last thing I want to do is create chemical reactions in my body from anger and anxiety that are just not necessary.
Right. Wow. I mean, those are two really, really good ideas for anyone to put into place just in any area of their life to find that centering.
Yes.
So really, really good tips. Now, let's talk a little bit about, I know that there are probably people that are going to listen or watch that have been given a diagnosis of some kind, physical diagnosis. I know I've had them, that probably don't know where to start or how to cope with that. What are some of the things that you recommend? Because I know you're coaching people through this particular scenario on how do I deal with my health situation now that I have a diagnosis that I didn't expect, or I don't know how to get the care that I need.
I would recommend, first of all, that when they're seeking information, because the internet can be a dark web or it can be a light. You can find a lot of valuable information out there. So that they're seeking quality information and educating themselves about their illness so that they can be an empowered patient and be their own advocate. Because nobody is going to speak up for you if you don't speak up for yourself at the doctors. An example is I was coaching one patient of they're having severe side effects from their medicine, and I said, talk to the doctor about reducing your dosage so that you can still stay on it, but maybe it'll lessen those severe side effects for you. And because when you're sick, you're not thinking for yourself. It's really difficult. It's like, why didn't I think of that? And so just really empowering people, though, to surround themselves with support groups that are where they can find people who've gone through what they've gone through before, and to really just educate themselves on their illness so that they know what questions to ask their doctor.
I'm going to step back just a minute. As you were talking, and I was thinking, so you have, 5 children between you and your husband. So obviously, you had this grief and this shock and this journey. How did you work with your children through this diagnosis? And, what are some of the things that people can do to help their children?
My children, I must have been blessed from above. My children are super grounded in their faith. And now you're getting me the cute. My children were such amazing pillars of strength during the entire time. And we come from a family of sarcasm and jokes. So we kind of do we kind of do handle things with a lot of laughter, and a lot of jokes and a lot of prayer. My kids are amazing prayer warriors, and they're just super grounded in their faith. And I think that's what got them through it, they just always told me that, we know you're going to be okay, Mom. We know you're going to be okay, Mom. We know you're going to be fine. And I just always felt like their connection to source was just so amazing that it made me know that I was going to be okay.
So
But
that gives you a lot of comfort.
yeah, I do. In that way, the kids themselves, my kids were a little bit older, so I do have that advantage too. I had my kids, I was a teen mom. That's a whole nother podcast. I was a teen mom, so my kids are a little bit older. I do know a lot of people have younger children when they are diagnosed with this, and I imagine that would be a lot more difficult. Because younger children don't really fully understand, and then to just see you not feeling so well is not easy for them, you know. My kids were able to help push me in the wheelchair, and they were able, my son's an athlete, football player, so he just was always available to help move me around or whatever I needed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And faith, that's one thing I say, in my book, and what I talk to people about is really grounding yourself in that faith, because it is something bigger than us. And, I know everybody has different beliefs. I happen to be Christian, and I believe that God, has a purpose for all of us here on the earth. He may or may not. I don't subscribe to the whole thing of bad things happen for good reasons. I just don't. But I also know that God doesn't leave us or forsake us. So when we're in the middle of these things, prayer is a very, I don't know, for me, I find that to be very comforting, knowing that I'm never alone, and that and he's with me, and that also I know that when other people pray, it makes a difference. So
And the book that got me through that difficult period was actually Battlefield of the Mind, Joyce Meyer.
oh yes,
An excellent book, and that book really helped me when I was going through it the very first time. It was that book.
that is a good book, and it's really all about controlling your thoughts. And
Yes.
that I've read that one a couple of times myself, so I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a great book. So
Yes.
in thinking about, planning for the future, when we're living, I mean, I know I live with chronic illness, not as serious as yours. But when we live with chronic illnesses or health problems, sometimes it's hard to think about the future, or we worry a lot about the future, which is its own form of grief, because we see other people who don't have these same issues, who seem to have the carefree life. What is it like? Do you grieve watching other people? Does it bother you? Do you have any thoughts around, why me, and why are these other people living this great life and I'm still struggling with this?
I think at first, in the very beginning when I was diagnosed, I would look at other women my age and think how lucky they were that they didn't have to go through this, and their husbands didn't have to worry about them like that. But now, as I've been dealing with this for 5 years and I've been doing the work mentally, I think now that there's also a population of people that I look at every day, and I don't know what they're walking around with either, what they're holding on to, because people look at me and they could assume she's doing great. She looks great on the outside, you know? Um, so when I look at other women, I think, I don't know what they're carrying around. I don't know. And sometimes people's emotional issues, I would have to say, can actually be worse than a chronic illness. It can be more painful physically and mentally for them. So I never know. But I did used to at first think like that. And then as I've gone through these last 5 years, I don't have those thoughts anymore.
And do you think that's because you were able to reframe and realize that everybody does have their struggles?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We're all walking a different path.
Yeah, because I know at first, when I lost my husband, I would be like, look at, those kids have a dad, and that, I watched my dream living out with other people. Now, I know many people who have my dream, and it's not as dreamy. Whereas me, I'm a very content person. And so sometimes, the dream doesn't turn out the way you anticipated, but there's something else that is more fulfilling, or brings fulfillment, or teaches you something about yourself that you would not have learned otherwise. And even though it wasn't a great situation to get you there, the learning that you get from that makes you a richer person.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I would say that. I definitely wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for what I've gone through with the myeloma.
And we would much rather you have not have gone through that.
Yes, yes, I would much rather have
Yeah.
not gone through it, but I'm glad that I'm not the high strung, am overly ambitious place that I was at. I'm glad I'm not there anymore. I'm okay with that now.
So there are some gifts.
There are some gifts. I mean, it is still a struggle because I had to let that go. That was another thing I did grieve, was the ability to really be a powerhouse, you know?
Oh, I think you're a powerhouse.
Oh, I thank you. I try in another way now. Yes. I try in things that are super exciting so that they keep me happy.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the United States, the thing that we do is we assign powerhouse to certain roles, responsibilities, etc. And there are many ways to be powerful, especially I think as a female. We can be powerful in so many ways.
Yes. Yes. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Even, I mean, I think being a mother is probably the most powerful role on the planet. Um,
Yeah.
At least for me, it has been, and it's been the one that's been the most challenging, but also the one that has been the most rewarding. So,
Yeah. And I'm finding, because I was so young when I had my kids and I was a
mhm,
teen mom, I'm finding that I enjoy the adult kids a little bit. I enjoy it, like the conversations that we have now, and just, their thought process and their excitement for life is just so fun to talk to them now.
it is, right? I know I'm enjoying that too. And look, you're here to see it. So that's the biggest.
Yes, yes, I had two babies left to graduate when I got diagnosed, and I've watched them both graduate high school.
Well, praise God.
Yes.
So I think we should talk a little bit about a little project that you and I have both worked on.
Yes.
That's getting ready to launch, because I think there's just so much exciting stuff that's coming around that. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yes. So our book, Unleash
Yeah.
Her. I'm super excited, and I was really glad to meet you and touch base with you on this project, because I did write a little bit about grief. So my chapter will have some of my grief in there, will be in the chapter. And it's been an incredible experience.
And do you want to talk about the name of your chapter?
Okay, so
Or no?
I was barely still figuring out the name last night.
Oh, were you really?
Yes, yeah. But it'll be something along the lines of a lotus flower.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, because they bloom from mud.
Yes,
Yes,
very cool.
yeah. And what about you?
My chapter, I actually am waiting for my edits, but my chapter is going to be building a lifetime of resilience.
Wow, that sounds
So
awesome. I cannot wait to read it.
I know I'm excited to read everybody's chapters.
Yes,
We are launching on what, October 25th.
yes. October 25th will be our book release. So
So we're
people
super
will get
excited.
that book. I am. Is this your first this your first book, or
It's not.
It's not. Okay. This will be my first one, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's exciting no matter what. So,
Yeah.
but it's my first anthology and it's my first time to co-author. So I'm very, very much looking forward to the journey that we're all going to have together.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay. So Unleash Her comes out on October 25th, and we'll put information all below on that so everybody can see that. It's going to be amazing. It's like 23 women, I think, in the book, an anthology of ways that ordinary women have overcome extraordinary situations. And that's what Angela and I have both lived through. And here we are to talk about it. And so it's just an amazing thing to be able to share with others, but to hear from others who have also experienced challenges. And so before we close, any other words of wisdom or tips? We'll include all the information on how to contact you, especially because of the knowledge that you have around multiple myeloma and all of that. And I don't know, anything else for the crowd out there?
One of the things that I do with myeloma patients and with cancer patients is I do teach them how to use their credit cards to get credit card points, miles, so that they can take either get a second opinion in another state or take a much deserved vacation.
That's a great idea.
Yes, yes,
That's a great idea.
yes. So I do that on the side as well. Help people with that because it's important.
It is because, we have to enjoy, no matter what our situation, we are all going to end up in the same place and no one knows the day. And so we should enjoy each day
Yes,
for the gift that it is.
yes. Find the adventure in every day.
Exactly. You learn that after you go through a lot. You realize that each day presents something that can be very joyful.
Yes, and adventurous.
Yes, I love the adventure. I need to be a little bit more adventurous, obviously. Maybe you'll teach me that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, we will close up, and thank you, Angela, for being on the show. I'm so happy to have met you and to be working with you, and I'm so grateful for you sharing your story for other people to learn, to be inspired. And I know that they are going to want to read your chapter. I know, I can't wait. So
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
thank you.